Thank you for joining us for Talk with Toni. My guest today is Clerk Karen Yarborough, an old friend.
Hi,
Hi. All right, Karen. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
I'm Karen Yarbrough. I'm the Cook County Clerk. I got here by way of the Recorder's Office and then by way of being a state representative, by way of being a independent insurance agent and realtor. So that's how I got here. That's been my
But you come from a
story.
distinguished political family.
Well, my dad was a former mayor of the village of Maywood. My husband was a former mayor of the village of Maywood. We do politics.
Sure enough. Now, you said you came out of the state legislature and then, of course, the Recorder's Office. How
Yeah.
long were you in the state legislature?
I was there 12 years. Yes, we got some great stuff done. My focus was public safety, public health, and social justice.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then how long were you a recorder before the
Recorder?
offices combined and you ran for
okay,
clerk?
so for recorder, I was there for 6 years, and of course, there was an initiative on the ballot that decided the recorder's office would go away, and then the duties would be
Transferred.
assumed by the clerk's office. And I need to say that exactly the way I just said it, because there seems to be some ambiguity about how this is supposed to go. It'll stop. We're going to assume those duties, and we're going to get the job done.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and this was an initiative that the voters passed.
They did. 65% the voters decided that we could maybe save some money. And while I didn't have a path to get there, over the last 2 years or so, we've been working together with my team. We have a plan. We're implementing that plan now. We're going to get the job done and save the taxpayers about $1.1 million.
Okay. Now, the clerk was already involved in record keeping. You keep marriage records and death records.
Sure.
So this was kind of just more record keeping, right?
Well, not so much. There were a number of people who felt like the recorder's office did not have a lot of import. But if you're buying a home or you're doing anything as it relates to real estate, in this state, you should record your purchase. Otherwise, who owns what? And so that's what the recorder's office is there for, to say who owns what. In other countries, they don't have a recorder's office. And so there's a lot of ambiguity and misinformation that's out there. You think you're buying a plot and you find out it belongs to somebody else. But because of the system that we have in the United States, a recorder of deeds office, everybody can know who owns what.
Who owns what parcels?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, you're also responsible for elections in suburban Cook County.
Yes.
And in this COVID-19 moment, what are you doing?
Well, let me say this. Back in March, we had an election, and it was pretty involved, and we were not ready for that election. And the reason why I'm saying that is COVID reared its ugly head, and while we thought we had PPE, we thought we had enough PPE, we thought
The personal protective equipment, yeah?
Yes, it didn't show up. Many of our polling sites, they told us we couldn't come there, especially seniors, buildings and senior homes. They said, no, we don't want you here. Many of our judges didn't even give us 24 hours to find other judges. So it was certainly not optimum what happened in March. But somehow we got through it. And I tell you, I saw the human spirit engaged and involved because people showed up with all kinds of PPE. They had masks on. They had the wipes. They were prepared. And I'm eternally grateful to those folks who said there's a job here that needs to be done, and they got it done. One story I talk about is a 16-year-old girl who, first time she was a judge, and she came to her polling place, and none of the other judges were there. So, you know what she did? She didn't go home. She said, I'm resolved. I'm going to be here. I'm going to do this job. She got input from some of the other judges, and she was there until the polls closed. She's my shero. Yes.
I hope some of the other judges eventually showed up.
No, they didn't. Not for her precinct. Can you imagine that?
Oh my
So
God.
this 16-year-old, she handled it. And so I'm looking for 16-year-olds that have that kind of resolve and actually showed up, stood there, were there the entire town and that time and got the job done. So
Do
I
we,
take,
do we still need judges?
you know, we normally need about 8,000 judges to pull off an election. We have had over 15,000 people who have sent applications in who want to be judges.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's absolutely wonderful. The only judges we really need now are people who speak more than one language. As you know, and thankfully the county board had an ordinance that allowed us to expand the languages, and now we're going to have 12 languages on the ballot. And let me tell you, the Koreans and several of these groups are so excited about being able to see their language on a ballot, and they are engaged and involved, and they're out there voting right now.
All right, so we had a relatively small pool of languages in the past that
Yes.
we put on the ballot, but we expanded it as the county
To
board.
12.
To
Yes,
12.
we have 12. Yeah, languages I never heard of. But anyway, yeah, no, I am grateful to the county board for doing this, because I had heard over the years, especially the Koreans, Urdu, and some of these others, they said, we want to be engaged and involved, but in many cases they were first generation.
They didn't.
The parents don't know. They're seeing it today.
All right, that's really good.
Yeah.
What should people do if they have problems? They don't know where their polling place is. They're confused about mail-in ballots. What should they do?
They should take a look at cookcountyclerk.com.
cookcountyclerk.com. No spaces, no underscores, nothing.
No, cookcountyclerk.com. Toni, there's a lot of misinformation out there. You go on social media, you will see it out there. And so we are the trusted source. And we're asking people to please don't listen to what you're hearing out of Washington. Don't listen to what you're reading on social media. But in fact, go to cookcountyclerk.com. Every single question you could possibly ask is right there. We just opened up Union Station as a polling place, a super site, and people can drop off their ballots. As you know, this year we were really, really pushing early voting and vote by mail. We got over 500,000 vote by mail applications, and we've gotten just about all of them out of the door right now, with the exception of about 14,000. So our people are working around the clock. It's all hands on deck. We're telling people, if you haven't gotten your ballot, you can wait, you can vote early, you can vote on election day. So there are 3 ways to do that. But give us the opportunity. I had a call today saying, hey, I ordered my ballot a month ago and I haven't gotten it yet. And when I went and looked it up, the ballot is in the mail today. And so she's going to be, really happy. I actually went to Union Station as well and looked at that setup, and oh my goodness, it's a beautiful setup, and the judges are excited. I'm glad to have a partnership with Amtrak to do this, because our commuters from the suburbs will be able to drop off their ballot or vote.
Okay, so if you're a suburbanite, you can go to Union Station when you're coming into the city to work and vote, or on your way home,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But you have super sites all around the county as well.
We have not super sites, but we have early voting sites. We
Early
have
voting
about
sites.
53 early voting sites, and then on election day we're going to have a few super sites, because we want to get every single vote we can possibly get. Obviously, there are people who are voting by mail. Some people are concerned about the post office. We've not had any trouble with the post office. Mail-in ballots are priority mail, and we've talked with the letter carriers union and the post office, and they've assured us they will deliver these ballots. However, if you're concerned about that, when you get your ballot, complete your ballot, do your research, complete your ballot, and you can drop it in a drop box. We have secure drop boxes at every single one of our early voting sites. And we have one down here at 69 West Washington. They do not have to stand in line. One of our judges will be there to review, to make sure they, their signature's there, and they'll be able to drop it right in the box.
All right, so they don't have to stand in line, nothing?
No.
Okay,
No,
all right,
no,
but
no,
they'll get some review to be sure that they've
Yes.
signed everything so their ballot will be counted.
Yes, and I voted that way today. Normally, I love voting in person. I really do. I like the excitement of voting in person and seeing the people I don't normally see on a regular basis. But, because of COVID, I decided that, I need to just go ahead and do this. And so I ordered my ballot. I actually ordered my ballot back in July. And I got it maybe about 3 weeks ago. I did my research, completed my ballot, and I actually dropped it off today at Union Station.
All right, good, good. Now, here in Illinois, we've done everything we can to improve ballot access. There's a lot of good work in that regard. Elsewhere in the country, however, we're seeing efforts to suppress the vote.
I'm glad I live in Illinois.
We should all be
I
glad.
tell you, when I hear from about some of my colleagues across the United States and the challenges that they're having and what have you, it's really unconscionable what's going on. But I'm glad I live in Illinois, and as you know, if you're not registered to vote, you can actually register and vote on election day. So I think we're number 4 in the country now. We just went up a few notches as it relates to who's the best state. So we're number 4. I know that number 1, 2, and 3, those states actually send actual ballot to every single person that's registered to vote. We're not there yet.
Okay. All right, in our state, you have to request an absentee.
Yes, you do. You do.
All right.
Yes.
But if we're near the top out of 50 states, that's not bad.
I think we're doing great.
All right. Listen, I want to thank you for joining us
Hey,
for
it's my pleasure.
Talk
My
with
pleasure.
Toni. This is Karen Yarborough, Clerk of Cook County. Thank you for rejoining us with Talk with Toni. My second guest is Ami Gandhi, who is a senior counsel at the Chicago Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for all your work.
All right, so earlier we talked with Karen Yarborough, who's clerk, and of course responsible for elections in suburban Cook County. This is a sort of interesting time in which there's a lot of kind of furor around our electoral process and whether or not the elections are safe and what's happening, especially elsewhere in the country, I would argue to suppress turnout. What's the national challenge before we sort of talk about local?
In all of my years advancing civil rights and conducting voter protection work, I've never seen such a challenging election context as we do for this November. Between the COVID pandemic and other concerns that community members, especially Black and Brown communities, have urgently felt this year, and now on top of that to have confusion, misinformation, and disenfranchisement in this election, it's been a hard road for many community members who are looking to have a voice. But we're also seeing unprecedented excitement about this election and people wanting to find a way to make their voice heard.
Well, here in Illinois, we're blessed because there's a lot of emphasis on access to the ballot.
Absolutely.
But elsewhere in the country, that's not the case. And as you say, the pandemic has complicated things because folks are afraid to be in crowds or outside or whatever, particularly those who are vulnerable as a result of their age or health conditions. But what's happening nationally around voter suppression?
Because of our federal administration and messages coming from the top that
Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
Attempting to undermine confidence in the electoral process.
And I say this coming from a nonpartisan organization and as a nonpartisan person, but we can't ignore the fact that there is unnecessary panic and myths and misinformation out there about our voting process and the integrity of our elections. And you're right, we are fortunate to be in Illinois where we have every prospect of a safe and secure and inclusive election. But it is a challenge to tune out the noise that we hear, not just from the federal administration, but even by forces in the Midwest closer to home who might attempt to confuse us about the fact that all eligible voters have the right to vote. And we want to make sure that people remember that and that they get any of their questions answered and not give in to the fear around this election.
The clerk pointed out that you could go to cookcountyclerk.com and find out all kinds of information about the election. Where else can people go?
We stand ready. We attorneys and the legal community stand ready as a nonpartisan source of information. People call our voter protection hotline at 866-OUR-VOTE. That's 866-OUR-VOTE. And we have companion lines for community members who speak other languages. I have to tell you, we've been getting calls. It's been ringing off the hook already in early voting and vote by mail with people already having questions. I think that's a good thing because a lot of people are making a plan ahead of time about how they want to exercise their right to vote.
Okay, and we have sort of three options. You can have a mail-in ballot, you can vote early, or you can vote on election day.
That's right. And so in Illinois, we're very fortunate that all eligible voters have those three options. We can choose to vote by mail. That's already happening. People are already requesting and receiving and completing and returning their ballots. Some people are already done voting this election. It's not too late for us to request to vote by mail if we're interested in that option. And we can also go to an early voting location. Many people are going to an early voting location either to vote in person or to drop off their completed mail-in ballot in a secure drop box. It's still important for many of our communities that we have the option to vote in person on election day, and that's very much going to be there in Chicago and Cook County and all across Illinois. Some people can't or don't feel comfortable voting from home or voting early, and so we want to make sure that there is all options available for community members, even if they have to register and vote on election day. It's not too late to do it that way as well.
Yeah, I think people should be reminded this is a state in which you can do that. There's sort of no deadline for registering. You can register on election day and vote.
That's right, absolutely. It's not too late to register. It's not too late to get a vote by mail ballot. And a lot of people don't know that we can apply to vote by mail without having an excuse. We don't have to give a complicated excuse
I'm
or
sick,
reason
I'm out of town, or
approval.
whatever.
Anyone can vote by mail if they're eligible to vote in Illinois. I'm from Indiana. It's a very difficult voting climate there. No shade to Indiana, but the voting rights landscape has been extremely suppressive and problematic in this election cycle. There's a tiny list of reasons that people have to qualify for that allow them to be able to vote by mail. In Illinois, all of us voters can vote by mail, and that's just such a great thing to have all those options for ourselves.
We have places in the country where they only vote by mail. I think Oregon is one of those places. But and the clerk was saying that we're moving in that direction. More people are interested in mail ballots, and more states are moving toward allowing greater latitude about mail ballots. But that's not the case in our neighboring state. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. And it's not the culture or what's legally permissible in Indiana, unfortunately, not for a lack of trying through civil rights lawsuits to expand things there. In Illinois, we're really proud that as voting rights advocates, we've had many chances to work hand in hand with wonderful government leaders like Clerk Yarborough, like Chicago Board of Elections, the Illinois State Board of Elections, so that we can expand access to voting here at home. Now, it's very important, though, for people to have the option to vote in the way that's comfortable for them. Voting by mail with the different forms that are involved can work really well for some community members. For those who don't have a stable address or for other reasons, they may decide that they want to vote in person instead.
Okay. If you're an elected official, you're expected to show up on your on election day at your own polling place. So I don't have a choice, but other people have lots of choices as to what they can do. All right. What's your advice to someone who's thinking about casting their ballot? Make their plan now.
Make your plan now. If you're interested in voting and exercising your right to vote, don't feel like any question is too silly or too small. We're here to answer any questions at 866-OUR-VOTE. And the voting system is confusing in many ways, sometimes by design in our country's dark history. We have to feel comfortable to ask any questions that we have, to understand the voting system. Community members with past criminal records are eligible to vote in Illinois. Community members in pretrial detention are eligible to vote in Illinois. We hope that everyone who's eligible to vote exercises that right to vote.
I think there's a polling place in our Cook County jail. So
we were there this weekend, and it was incredible. And we saw hundreds or more of voters really engaged there, among the most engaged and motivated voters we've ever seen. And it included longtime voters, new voters registering for the first time. One voter, he registered and voted for the first time, and he said, "I'm here because my government leaders are making decisions about the budget, and I have something to say about that. I have an opinion about that, and I respect that. And we're really proud to be in a place like Cook County that has a polling place inside the jail.
Thank you. Well, how did you come to your work? I should have asked you that at the beginning.
I am interested in voting and protecting voting rights because of loved ones who don't have the right to vote. So that's why I'm here. And for years, I've worked to expand access to the polls for new citizens and immigrant communities. And now being at Chicago Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights for the past several elections, I see it as a chance to hopefully build bridges across communities of color so that together we can expand voting rights for all of us.
Thank you. I think that's a good place to end. We really appreciate your being with us, Ami.
Thank you.
And we're
Thank you
grateful for the good work of
opportunity.
the Chicago Committee for Civil Rights. I say it
Yeah,
right?
Thank you so much. I know it's a mouthful. Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's the Lawyers Committee. There we go.
Yes.
All right.
That's right.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.